My name is Emily, and I'm 35 years old. I've been a homemaker for 10 years, married to my husband, a doctor named Michael. We haven't been blessed with children, but we've been living a reasonably happy life. However, something happened that put an end to our 10 years of marriage. It happened one day. "Emily, this is the end for us," said Michael, who came home late as usual.
"What do you mean by the end? What are you suddenly talking about?"
"I've decided to marry my mistress. So, we're getting divorced today."
"Marry your mistress? What are you talking about?"
"I've made up my mind. I'm leaving you and marrying her. Besides, we didn't marry for love, so you probably don't care, right?" Indeed, ours wasn't a love marriage. Michael's parents were eager for him to marry and found me as a suitable partner. We hardly knew each other and got married quickly. The only thing we had in common was that we originally had the same last name. People might say it's fate that we have the same last name. I thought, attracted by the idea in the rush of surrounding marriages, and decided to marry him. Since then, we managed our wedding and married life well enough. But I never imagined we would divorce after 10 years.
"It wasn't a love marriage, but we've lived together for 10 years. And now you suddenly want to marry your mistress? When did you start betraying me?"
"It's not betrayal. I met her about a year ago. She's a nurse who joined our hospital. She's charming, unlike you, always caring for me, and it's natural that I was drawn to her."
"Natural? Are you serious?"
"Yes, I've always been serious. These 10 years living with you have been true hell. I was honestly sick and tired of supporting such a boring woman. But that ends today."
"How can you talk like that?"
"It's the truth. You're a homemaker who produces nothing, while she's an active nurse. Ask any man in the country, they'd all choose her over you. Do you think a high-earning doctor like me needs someone like you?" After a pause, I was the first to speak. "Fine, let's divorce. I never thought I'd be married to someone who could say such things so calmly. We can discuss alimony and property division later with a lawyer. I'll sign the divorce papers and send them later. Until then, I'll go back to my parents' house." But then Michael interrupted. "No need for discussions. We don't even need a divorce paper."
"What do you mean? We can't separate without it. If we don't divorce, you can't remarry."
"You're so naive, it's pathetic."
"What?"
"The truth is, I never submitted our marriage registration. We're not a married couple, just cohabitants. So there's no divorce, no alimony, no property division. You thought you'd get my money in the divorce, but you won't get a penny." That day, Michael was supposed to submit our marriage registration. But I couldn't go because of an urgent matter. But it turns out he never submitted it.
"Not submitted? Wait, are you joking? We've been living as a married couple for 10 years. It's impossible that you didn't submit it."
"Normally, yes. That's why I made that rule at the beginning. If you went to the office, everything would be ruined. When we got married, we made some rules. I, as a homemaker, would handle all the household chores. I was on an allowance, and part-time work was prohibited. And Michael would handle all governmental and official matters."
"Why would you do such a thing?"
"Why? Because I was about to be forced into a marriage with someone I didn't love. It's not like I was going to submit it easily. I was saving marriage for someone I was destined to be with."
"Then you should have refused the marriage proposal in the first place."
"I couldn't refuse. My parents are stubborn and wouldn't listen. What would have happened if I said I didn't want to marry? Plus, I wanted a housekeeper."
"Housekeeper?"
"I'm a busy doctor and can't often tend to household chores. So, I decided to marry you as a housekeeper. It was a good deal for you too, right? You could eat well and have a roof over your head without working. You seemed desperate to get married, too."
"What?"
"You were probably feeling pressured because your friends were getting married, right? Even though we weren't actually married, you were seen as the woman who married a doctor. This 10-year relationship was a win-win for both of us. That's all it was, and it ends today." You should be grateful for the good times you had. Now, you have to live on your own, without relying on others.
I can't believe this.
Oh, and one more thing. Don't tell my parents about this. If you do something unnecessary, you know what will happen to your father, right? My father, who runs a medical equipment sales company, has a contract with the hospital where he works. It was through my marriage to him that this connection was made. If I told my in-laws, he's implying that he'd sever the contract as a threat. In other words, he's threatening me not to do anything unnecessary. It's your fault for being deceived. How pitiful to be thrown out with nothing, he said, laughing. But the one who would be thrown out without knowing anything was actually him. I couldn't help but burst into laughter.
What's so funny all of a sudden?
I can't believe you became a doctor with that kind of knowledge.
What do you mean?
I knew all along about your mistress and that you didn't submit our marriage registration.
That's impossible.
That's why I've been preparing, waiting for the day you'd bring it up yourself. Preparing to get my revenge on you. In fact, I had suspected his infidelity for the past 6 months. But I didn't have enough evidence to confront him. So, I hired a private investigator to look into his affair.
Ma'am, there are 2 things I need to tell you.
The first is that your husband is indeed having an affair. We've got evidence of him entering a hotel with a nurse from his workplace. And the second is, from their conversations, there's a possibility that you two are not legally married.
Possibility of not being legally married? What does that mean?
I overheard your husband and his mistress at a cafe. He said they didn't need to worry about alimony or property division since they never submitted a marriage registration.
What? I can't believe it. We've been living as a married couple for 10 years.
I don't know why he didn't submit the marriage registration.
That's why he never let me handle any official procedures.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
I can't believe this. How could this happen?
It's rare to hear about not submitting a marriage registration for 10 years, but it's not unheard of.
This is too much. Am I just supposed to accept this? If we were never married from the start, there's nothing I can do.
Not necessarily.
What do you mean?
Let's make him pay for deceiving you for 10 years. First, we need to prepare without him noticing. And so, I began to prepare with the investigator to punish my husband.
So what if you knew? We were never married from the start, so it doesn't matter what I do with other women. I don't need to take any responsibility.
You said I was pitiful for not knowing anything, but it seems you were the one who was pitiful.
What do you mean?
We're considered to be in a common law relationship on paper.
So what?
You might not know, but you can actually claim alimony and divide property in a common law relationship.
What?
He didn't know that registering as a de facto marriage would backfire on him.
You can make claims in a common law relationship?
It's not well known, but yes, you can. Of course, there are some conditions, but looking at your case, it seems you meet them.
What are these conditions?
The common law relationship is established based on these 2 criteria. First, both parties must have the intention to marry. If it's just living together, that's cohabitation. Mutual intent to marry is key.
That seems subjective and hard to judge.
For instance, if you had a wedding ceremony or are recognized as a couple by others, it can be acknowledged.
We've had a wedding ceremony, and our parents and friends know us as a couple.
Then the first criterion is met. The second is living as if married. This includes sharing household life for over 3 years. You've been living together as a couple for over 10 years. As a homemaker, you've obviously shared the household finances. This is recognized as a marital relationship.
So that means,
if you can provide proof of what we discussed, you can claim alimony and divide property. I'm not an expert in this area, so I'll introduce you to a lawyer. You can work with them to bring him down. After consulting the lawyer I was referred to, I was told that I could indeed claim alimony and property division from my husband. So, I'm going to demand alimony and property division from you. I informed my husband, who turned pale. His confidence, which had looked down on me just a moment ago, was gone.
But even if you can claim alimony and property division, you're just an unemployed woman. Do you plan to rely on your parents after being kicked out?
Didn't I say I was preparing? I've already found a job, starting next month. I've also got my eye on a new place. Don't worry about me.
What?
He thought I, a clueless homemaker, would be helpless. But the tables had turned. Also, I'll make sure to discuss this with your parents. Just so you know.
Do you not care what happens to your father?
If they want to break the contract, let them.
What?
Sure, you were the link to the hospital, but the contract continued because of my father and his company's efforts. Whether or not they keep the contract is up to them. Let's see if they'll break a contract just because the doctor's wife of 10 years was a lie. Try saying that.
You!
My father and I won't be affected. If the contract is broken over this, it only shows the depth of their trust. We'll just find another hospital to partner with. Saying this, I took out my phone.
You're not calling your parents, are you?
That's exactly what I'm doing. Our parents think we're still married. It's only natural to inform them if this relationship is ending. Then, to my surprise, my husband began to apologize to me.
Please, let me talk to them. Don't call.
Why?
You know how strict my parents are. If they find out about this, I'm done.
What does that have to do with me?
Huh?
You're asking me not to tell the truth because your parents are strict? Are you kidding? You could have refused the marriage from the start if you didn't intend to marry. After 10 years of a selfish marriage, you're afraid of your parents finding out? I can't accept such a convenient story.
But
I can't accept your story. I'll make sure to tell both your parents and mine. And so, I called both sets of parents. All four were shocked upon hearing my story. A meeting was promptly arranged at our house.
I've heard everything over the phone. Is it true that you pretended to be married for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration? Speak up. You foolish son. It's true, I didn't submit it. Why would you do such a thing? Didn't you think about how Emily would feel? I had no choice. No choice, you say? How can you even say that? It's actually your fault, Dad and Mom. I didn't want to get married yet. You started looking for a bride on your own, saying it was time I got married. You arranged meetings and tried to force a marriage on me. You're the one who agreed to the marriage, aren't you? I had to agree. If I had refused, you would have made a fuss about it. So, I decided to get married. If you were resolved to marry, why didn't you submit the marriage registration? I read about a man on the internet who was in the same situation. He didn't want to marry but had to because of his parents. He lived a married life without submitting the registration, then revealed the truth when he found someone he truly loved.
That's appalling.
And what happened to that guy in the end? He's now married to the person he loves and has a real marriage. So, I too will marry my girlfriend and have a real marriage.
Then my parents, who had been silent until now, spoke up after hearing his reasoning. A real marriage, huh? Sure, you might not have had a love marriage. But do you remember what you said at the wedding?
What?
We will never forget to care for each other and build a home full of smiles. What did those words mean to you? What were we shown then? We sent our daughter to you, hoping for her happiness. But you deceived her for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration. Did you build a home full of smiles? Now, you're leaving her for another woman. Can someone who acts without a shred of care, even if they change partners, truly have a real marriage?
Well, that's...
I was happy you married our daughter, not just because you were a doctor. I thought she could build a happy home with someone as sincere as you. But it seems we were mistaken and deceived. And you threatened our daughter. If she told us about this, you'd cut off the contract with our company.
What? Seriously? If you're going to threaten our daughter, we'll cut off the contract ourselves. Be warned, we will tell the truth when asked why. If you do that, there'll be rumors at the hospital.
Rumors?
Well, yes, but that's the result of your own actions. You were the one who threatened us with cutting off the contract.
My husband was in complete panic at this unexpected turn of events.
Please wait. This is getting out of hand. Let's just talk.
At that moment,
Don't mess with us.
my father-in-law grabbed my husband by the collar, furious.
We didn't raise you to be such a scoundrel. What were you thinking? Father, please stop. By not submitting the marriage registration, you might have thought you were doing yourself a favor. But because of your selfish actions, Emily was strung along for 10 years. What were you thinking, causing such trouble to others?
The living room fell silent. My husband, faced with my father-in-law's words, had nothing more to say.
Emily, and your parents, I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused by this idiot. No, you parents shouldn't apologize. It's not your fault. However, it's partly our responsibility as parents for letting him act this way. For now, we'll take him home and make sure he doesn't continue his reckless behavior. We'll deal with the aftermath properly. We're very sorry for all this.
And with that, my husband was taken away by his parents, back to his childhood home.
You've been through a lot. For now, you should come back home and rest. We'll think about what to do next later. You don't need to worry about anything right now.
My parents thought I was completely exhausted and deceived. They spoke to me with such kindness.
Thank you, but I won't go back home yet. I still have things I need to do.
I declined their offer and stayed in my own home. What I had to do was prepare for the final settlement with my now ex-husband. Gathering evidence for our common law relationship, I was getting ready to claim alimony and divide our assets. A few weeks later, a meeting with a lawyer was arranged. However,
even if I agree to alimony, why should I divide my property? She's been a homemaker for 10 years, never working a day. All the furniture, clothes, food, I paid for everything. Now you're telling me to hand over the money I worked hard for and the furniture I bought? He ranted, unable to accept that his money would be shared with me.
Yes, that's correct.
The money you earned and the furniture are subject to property division. Why does it have to be like that?
Who did the housework while you were working? Who cooked meals with the groceries you bought?
That's irrelevant now.
No, it's very relevant.
A homemaker is entitled to property division because housework and childcare have economic value. Speaking as a human, not just a lawyer, do you think housework is something anyone can do, that it's just expected of a homemaker? The reason you could live freely is because of her support. Don't get that wrong. What? And this situation is a result of your actions. Yet, you have the audacity to be selfish. What did you say? Never mind. Anyway, she's entitled to half of the assets for property division. That's how it is. Damn. Regarding alimony, we intend to claim $100,000 from you. $100,000? Why so much for a relationship that wasn't even a marriage? It's precisely because you weren't married. Normally, alimony claims in common law relationships range from $10,000 to $40,000. However, in your case, you pretended to be married for 10 years and selfishly tried to kick her out when you found someone else. The amount is determined by the severity and duration of your actions. But still, you may think 10 years is just a short time, but it's longer than you realize. During that time, she devoted herself to you, believing you were a married couple. You have no right to complain after betraying her.
A perfect rebuttal. He couldn't say anything and reluctantly agreed to my demands. Then, I also sent a notice of claim for alimony to his mistress. I knew who and where she was, thanks to the investigator. As he had said, she was a nurse working at the same hospital. The mistress, having heard from him that there was no possibility of alimony or property division, must have been utterly shocked by the contents of the claim.
Wait a minute. This isn't what you told me. What do you want? I told you not to talk to me at the hospital. I got this from your wife. You said there wouldn't be any alimony because we weren't married. What's this all about?
I later learned that, in a panic after being served with the alimony claim from me, she confronted him at the hospital with the notice I had sent.
Okay, let's talk about this later. Not here, there are too many people around. We'll both be in trouble if this turns into a rumor. I don't care about that. I can't pay this kind of alimony. You said it was okay, so you should pay it for me. What? I won't pay a penny. You were the one who wanted this relationship. You said I was the only one for you, that you wanted to marry me. Hey, quiet down. Everyone can hear us. Just so you know, I'm not in the wrong here. If you want to make amends with your wife, do it yourself. Tell her I don't owe her a penny, that you'll take care of everything. Wait, hold on. Hey!
This exchange led to the revelation of their affair to the entire hospital. It quickly became the talk of the place. And then, the final blow was my father's request to the hospital. I apologize, but we would like to terminate our contract at the end of next month. Then, the hospital, aware of the rumors, asked my father, "Excuse me for asking, but is the reason for canceling the contract related to Dr. Michael's affair?"
It's already become a rumor? Yes, a nurse presumed to be involved caused quite a scene. I never imagined he had been pretending to be married for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration. I never expected it to turn out like this. You mean he never submitted the registration? Weren't you aware that he hadn't submitted the marriage registration? All we knew was that he, being married, had an affair. What do you mean he didn't submit the marriage registration?
With my father's request, it was revealed that he had been deceiving me for 10 years by not submitting the marriage registration. This news spread among the other nurses.
Dr. Michael deceived his wife for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration. And he had an affair with a nurse. How low? How could he do that? Can someone really not notice for 10 years? Apparently, Emily's maiden name was the same, and he managed all the official paperwork. That's scary.
The rumors spread not only among hospital staff but also to patients, and both Michael and his mistress received cold stares. Unable to endure, they soon resigned from the hospital. As my father told me.
Did you manage to get the alimony? Yes, I received payments from both him and his mistress. She refused to pay until the end, claiming she was deceived. But the lawyer made it clear her argument wouldn't hold, and she reluctantly agreed to pay. That's good. What about you, Dad? Did the contract get cancelled after all? No, that's off the table. He resigned, and since our company is trusted, the hospital asked us not to cancel the contract. We couldn't cancel it after they asked like that. That's a relief.
Then, I started a new life in a new place and was living happily. About 1.5 years later, my ex-husband contacted me.
Is it true you got remarried?
I had married a man I met at work. And somehow he had found out.
I wondered whose number this was. Going through the trouble of changing your number just to contact me. Just answer my question.
Yes, I got married.
You betrayed me?
Betray?
We were never legally married, so I didn't think it would matter to you, right? That's a different matter.
Indeed, things are different now. We're completely separated, so my marriage has nothing to do with you.
Is that why you contacted me?
After I said this, he seemed at a loss for words. Then he taunted, "Of course, you're still unmarried since you probably haven't submitted a marriage registration again. You're that kind of woman." But things weren't as he imagined.
Unfortunately for you, my husband isn't the kind of person to do such terrible things. He knows all about your story. So, to ensure I wouldn't feel anxious, we went to the office together to submit the registration. Sadly for you, things aren't as you thought. I can somewhat understand your wish for me to be unhappy, considering your own misery, but sorry, we're happily married.
I told him this and hung up the phone. What kind of life he leads now, I don't know. But unless he changes his selfish nature, it's unlikely he'll ever find happiness.
I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you?
I finally blurted it out. Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after thinking for a moment while massaging his brow, he smirked.
Caught me, huh? Well, yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections.
Without any remorse, Ben continued. Oh, I've got something to tell you, too. He strode up to me, a sleazy grin on his face. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya?
Huh?
He's taken a liking to you, so make him happy. That's the least you can do.
In exchange, I'll focus on my new flame. If Sally and I have a son, he'll eventually be the CEO.
Essentially, Ben planned to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future, considering the influence of the family. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door slammed open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, Tom approached Ben. Then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted.
Mom, let's start our counterattack.
I'm Sophia, 30 years old. Becoming a housewife after marriage, I'm now troubled about my child. Though I say my child, Tom is not blood-related. He's Ben's son from a previous marriage. He's a quiet kid. That's what Ben said when he brought Tom the day after our marriage. I knew Ben was divorced, but I had no idea he had a child, let alone one he was raising.
Quiet or not?
Confused, I didn't know how to react, but Ben nonchalantly replied. No, really, he's super quiet. He's only 3 but not much trouble. Looking at the 3-year-old Tom, he gazed back at me with curious eyes. His innocent face stirred mixed feelings in me.
His name is Tom. Say hi to your new mom, Tom.
Urged by Ben, Tom shyly looked at me.
Mom. Well, it's a surprise, but that's how it is.
I'm easily swayed, embarrassingly so. I could have objected if Tom wasn't there. But faced with his wide, curious eyes, I couldn't voice a single complaint to Ben. And so, I became a mother to a 3-year-old upon marriage. I wanted kids eventually, but never imagined skipping straight to motherhood. As Ben said, Tom was a low-maintenance child for a 3-year-old. He ate what was given and never threw tantrums. He was, in a word, a good kid.
He really is quiet.
Right?
Well, I don't know much about it. Huh?
According to Ben, his parents raised Tom before we got married.
I couldn't possibly do childcare with my busy job. Is that so? But now, with you, Sophia, being unemployed, it's reassuring.
Childcare was left to the grandparents, with Ben only seeing Tom on weekends. This earned me a lot of gratitude from my in-laws.
We're old, you know. He's not unlovable, but it's been tough. Having Tom around sure messes with plans, huh? Plans? You know, kids get sick all the time, right? And when they make a fuss, it's a real headache. Gotta be mindful of the people around us.
My in-laws nodded in agreement, looking like they've been through it all. Tom, sitting next to me, watched them expressionlessly. Apart from his illness, he didn't seem like the type to make a fuss. I was naive to think so. At first, he was probably wary of me, the new person in his life. That's why he was so well behaved.
No, don't do that. It's dangerous. Yay! Cheese!
3-year-olds are more active than I thought. He'd bring a step stool to rummage through the fridge, fiddle with the stove knobs, and play in the bathtub with leftover water splashing everywhere.
Today, he drew on the walls with a permanent marker.
I reported this to Ben, exhausted, when he got home from work. He just responded nonchalantly, huh?
I never thought childcare would be this tough. Hey, could you watch him this weekend? I really need to catch up on some housework.
During the week, I couldn't take my eyes off Tom, and just managing the day's chores was all I could handle. It's been half a year since I moved into this house after getting married. And yet, there are still unpacked boxes. If Ben could watch him, I could focus on that. But Ben's response was shocking.
Huh? Why should I? What? But you're Tom's. Huh? Just because you and Tom aren't blood related, you're going to shirk your childcare duties?
I was speechless. Me, neglecting childcare? No one said that. I just wanted to do the chores I couldn't get to during the week and asked him to watch Tom for a day.
I'm just asking you to spend a little time with him. That's ridiculous.
Ben sighed heavily.
You're unemployed, right? I'm the one working here. I'm supporting us, and you're talking nonsense. But you could help a little. It's your day off. That's the point. Why should I spend my day off tiring myself out with a kid? I married you for a reason, you know. What's that supposed to mean? You married me just to be a childcare provider?
Ben looked like he regretted his words. He apologized, but in the end, he only played with Tom for an hour on Saturday morning. By the time I noticed, Ben had already left. Seriously, what a mess. Exhaling tiredly, I felt Tom grip my pinky finger.
Mom, are you tired? You okay?
Tom looked up at me with his chubby cheeks.
Just a little. But I'm okay. Seeing you cheers me up.
As I hugged him, saying hug, Tom let out a squeal of laughter. Taking care of the house and Tom every day is tough. I'm tired. But I've come to love Tom as my own child. That's when it happened. One day, I noticed something odd about Tom's walk and took him to the pediatrician. I was hoping it was just my overthinking. But the doctor's words were shocking. If this continues, he might lose the ability to walk. Tom might have a serious illness. As the doctor explained, my mind went blank. I wanted to consult with Ben right away, but couldn't reach him at work. Ben didn't come home until late that night, unreachable all the while.
What's with all those calls, Sophia? I was at work. I couldn't deal with so many messages. This is what I get for marrying someone who doesn't work.
Ben let out an exaggerated sigh. He had no idea. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. Tom was at the hospital today. As I spoke with a trembling voice, Ben covered his mouth, his eyes wide in shock.
What's that all about?
The prognosis varies from person to person, so nothing's certain yet, but the doctor said there's a chance. He's hospitalized now for tests. Please, come with me to his next appointment. I asked him, feeling I couldn't handle it alone. Having Ben there would be a big support. Even if he's busy with work, this is an emergency. He could take a day off, right? But Ben said, I don't know about this.
What?
A rare disease? What are you talking about? My son can't be a failure.
A failure? How can you say that?
I went from sadness to shaking with anger. Ben frowned at me. It must be his mother's fault. Her bad genes. Damn it. Dumping him on me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He wasn't worried about Tom, he was just making excuses.
Damn it. I shouldn't have taken him in. Sophia, you're his mother, right? You handle it, I'm busy.
He walked away to the bathroom, and I just stared at his back, stunned. I was filled with worry about what to do next and the resolve that I had to do it. From that day on, Ben started coming home late. Was it because he couldn't face reality, or just avoiding the trouble? Probably the latter. I decided not to expect anything from Ben. I had to protect Tom.
Mom.
Tom, good morning. I've missed you. Fortunately, thanks to Ben, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had the time. That was one thing to be grateful for. A week later, Tom was discharged from the hospital. I had Ben pick us up on the day of his discharge. He always knew how to put on a good front.
Thank you so much. We'll work together as a family from now on. Please keep supporting us.
To think a father who didn't even know his son's condition and was running from reality could say such things. I thanked everyone again and got into the car with Tom and Ben. After discharge, Tom was forced to live in a wheelchair. Seeing him bored every day, unable to run around, was heart-wrenching. Ben still came home late as usual.
That's it.
To cheer Tom up, I gave him a drawing set.
I used to love drawing, and I was pretty good at it. Wow. Tom, you're great at drawing too.
Really? Like Mom? Pleased to be praised, or maybe happy to be doing something I liked, Tom's eyes sparkled as he got lost in his drawing. In the blink of an eye, 4 years passed, and Tom turned 7. Life in a wheelchair seemed hard, but he appeared to be enjoying school, which was a relief. I tried to have conversations with Ben several times, but it seemed like he was avoiding them, and we couldn't talk it out. As I agonized over what to do, suddenly Ben's infidelity came to light. It was an unexpected message from a friend that broke the news.
Sorry to bring this up so suddenly, but I saw your husband coming out of a motel with a young woman.
Along with the message, she sent a few photos. Come to think of it, Ben hadn't come home since yesterday. I hadn't thought much of it, assuming he might have been on a business trip. As I continued to exchange messages with my friend, I could tell she was being really careful with her words. Soon after, she called me.
Sophia, are you okay? Do you want me to come over?
She sounded worried. Of course, she would be. She must have struggled with whether to tell me or not. But I wasn't as shocked as I felt I should be. In fact, I had been suspicious of Ben for a while now. He wasn't usually at a job that required lots of overtime. But recently he'd been coming home late into the night, sometimes not until the morning. And even though we slept in separate rooms, I'd heard him on the phone late at night, sounding happy.
I'm fine, actually. This just clears things up for me. With this evidence, I could probably get an advantage in a divorce.
Let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Thanks.
After hanging up, I was suddenly overwhelmed with despair. It's one thing to suspect, but having it confirmed feels completely different. A dark feeling swirled in my chest. More than being upset about the infidelity itself, I was shocked that while I was struggling and worrying about Tom, crying over his condition, Ben was out enjoying himself with someone else. Thinking about it brought a different kind of tear to my eyes. Tom was very dear and beloved to me, but with that came an endless sense of responsibility and pressure. I tried not to let the strain show. But to think this was the outcome felt like a total betrayal. What should I do now? Pretend I don't know and keep living like this? Or confront him about the affair and get a divorce? Which option would be better for Tom? The more I thought about it, the more overwhelmed I became, and tears started to flow. I was so blurred by tears that I didn't notice Tom had come into the room.
Mom, are you crying?
Oh. Tom, it's just...
Did Dad do something to you?
Why would you think that? I made sure never to badmouth Ben in front of Tom, avoiding any negative talk about him.
Because Dad doesn't like me, right? So I thought maybe he did something to you. I didn't want to tell you, but I saw Dad on a date with another woman. They looked happy. I saw them once.
Tom said this, looking down. I hugged him tightly. He had been carrying this thought alone. This wasn't just my problem anymore. I had to face it.
Do you like Dad, Tom?
After a moment of hesitation, he answered timidly. I like you, Mom.
I love you too, Tom.
From that moment, I began to take steps towards divorce. I hired a detective agency to investigate the affair and gathered evidence to strengthen my case. Everything was prepared smoothly. Now, I just had to wait for the day Ben came back to have our final confrontation. It seemed he had been home a few times, but I had successfully avoided him. His belongings and bank books were still in the house, so he would have to come back eventually. That would be the time to talk. I was resolved. But sometimes, I waver in a fleeting moment. Is this really the right thing to do? I have no love left for Ben. I'm certain that I won't regret divorcing him. However, when I think of Tom, doubts arise. Tom and I are not related by blood. and that fact gnaws at me. I plan to take custody after the divorce, and I don't think Ben would object. But still, is it better for Tom to have a father, even one like Ben, in his life? Ben often flees the house, and now, he hasn't been home for many days. As long as Ben says nothing, there won't be a divorce. If we both remain silent, this life will continue. At least I won't have to worry about money. That's a great thing. That thought crossed my mind. Mom. Perhaps sensing my hesitation, Tom gripped my hand tightly. It's okay, Mom. I'm here with you. Despite being only 7, his reassuring words made me smile.
That's right. Mom will do her best. Will you join me? Yes.
2 days later, in the dead of night, Ben returned home temporarily. We need to talk. The next day, when Ben finally woke up around noon, I started. Huh? Talk about what? Let me guess, it's gonna be something troublesome, right? I just got back and you're already on my case. Ben yawned loudly. I exhaled and looked him squarely in the eyes.
I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you?
Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after a moment of thought and massaging his brow, he smirked. Finally caught on, huh? Yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections.
So, you admit it?
Yeah, looks like you're planning to divorce me, right? If you've got the papers, just give them here. I'll sign them quickly. I didn't expect him to cling, but I certainly didn't expect such a smooth acceptance either. I was taken aback as Ben smiled even wider. You thought I'd be more upset, huh? Well, I certainly didn't expect you to admit it so readily. Yeah, well, I've got other prospects now. Is it because of the CEO's daughter? Wow, you've done your homework, Sophia. Ben feigned surprise and clapped his hands dramatically. Yeah, that's right. I met her through work. She's a real heiress, and said she'd pay to be with me. He seemed to be trying to escape. But I held back from pressing further. That's nice for you. Makes things easier for me too. But I have one thing I need to confirm. I have something to tell you too. Ben strode over to me with a scornful smile. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya? Huh? He's attached to you, so make him happy. I mean, that's the least you can do, right? In return, I'll focus on my new family. If I have a son with Sally, he'll be the future CEO. Essentially, Ben was planning to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door burst open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, he approached Ben. And then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted.
Mom, let's start our counterattack.
Ben was stunned, his mouth agape. Tom, weren't you unable to walk? Why are you standing? I worked hard. Indeed, Tom, once thought to never walk again, had diligently worked on his rehabilitation and could now take a few steps on his own. Well, that's good, isn't it? Ben said, trying to sound tough. Yes, it is. Thanks to you, he's been growing a lot. He even helped me with the divorce preparations.
You didn't have to tell the kid that.
Ben retorted, surprisingly wanting to impress in front of the child. He was slightly shaken. A great negative example, you are.
Fine, I have the CEO's daughter with me. You and your failed family can settle for less.
By the way, which CEO's daughter is Sally? Ben chuckled. Prepare to be shocked. Sally is the daughter of a construction CEO. A construction is one of the biggest companies around here. His pride in dating the CEO's daughter was understandable. But Ben was greatly mistaken about one key fact. Unaware. He bragged confidently. A construction. That's amazing. I'm so surprised. Right? Ben nodded. I smiled and said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize your thinking was like that, Ben. Huh? Confused, Ben asked what I meant. I mean, you see same sex, not opposite sex, as your romantic interest.
What? What are you talking about? Sally is a cute girl.
Strange, because a construction CEO doesn't have a daughter.
That's impossible. You're lying. Just wait and listen.
Ben, trying to act tough but clearly panicking, took out his phone. Shaking, and called someone. Sally. He even switched the call to speakerphone. Now, the entire conversation is out in the open.
Hey, Sally. Listen. I just heard something unbelievable. Sorry for asking this weird question, but you're a girl, right?
Ben asked nervously. To which Sally casually replied. Oops, you finally found out.
What?
Ben's face was drained of color. He's ashen-faced.
That can't be. But that time, there wasn't, you know.
He was probably referring to the male symbol. Despite having a physical relationship, he couldn't believe she was a man. Sally answered calmly. Of course, I've already had surgery. I'm a girl in body and soul. Sally wasn't bothered by being exposed as a former man. Meanwhile, Ben was shocked.
No way, Sally was a man.
Hey, Ben, that's rude. I'm a girl at heart and soul.
Shut up. Nonsense. You're a real man.
Ben yelled at the phone. The living room fell silent. I felt a bit sorry for Sally on the other end of the phone, but soon realized it wasn't necessary.
What? Ben, that's unbelievable. You said you loved me. You big liar. Forget about introducing you to my dad, and the headhunting offer is off the table. Goodbye. Wait, Sally. That's not what I...
Sally hung up abruptly. Ben knelt, stunned. He had been expecting a rosy future with the CEO's daughter, only to find out she was the CEO's son. And due to his careless words, they broke up. Plus, as a married man who had cheated, Ben still had responsibilities to face.
That's a shame, but it's your fault, Ben. She was a girl in her heart and soul. That's impossible. Regardless of now, if she was originally a man, she's a man. Oh, disgusting. I can't believe I was with someone like that.
How you feel doesn't matter to me. What's important is, how are you going to pay the alimony? Ben whispered oh, and looked around helplessly. Sally, his lifeline, had just dumped him. Despite it being winter, sweat beaded on Ben's forehead and trickled down his cheek. Don't worry, I won't make you cry. But you'll have to pay child support properly.
But I don't have any savings. I spent almost everything on Sally.
What does that have to do with child support? Ben furrowed his brows, looking distressed. He remained seated, not trying to stand up. But then, as if struck by an idea, he exclaimed.
Ongoing support would be better than a lump sum payment, right?
What? I glared, and Ben looked up at me pleadingly.
You're kind-hearted, Sophia. You were planning to take Tom even if we divorced, right? But think about it. You're unemployed and have no savings. Life isn't that easy.
So what are you suggesting?
Let's start over.
Ben nodded seriously, as if it was the only option.
That way, we can continue living as before, right? It's a win-win. Look, let's just call it even this time.
I see. Can you keep your jokes just to your face?
What?
I asked Ben, who was frozen with a strained smile. I pointed my finger at him and continued.
First of all, what do you mean by we're both to blame? Why am I being accused? You're the one who cheated and squandered our savings, not me. Don't just brush this off. But you're just a housewife with no significant qualifications, right? You won't find a job easily. It's better to start over with me.
Don't worry about me. I've already found a job.
What?
Ben looked stunned. I said, stroking Tom's head.
Thanks to Tom. What do you mean?
My drawing videos are really popular. Tom said, showing his tablet to Ben with enthusiasm. On the screen were a young child's hands and a voice that was clumsy yet pleasant to hear. Along with warm, heartfelt drawings. Tom had started drawing when his illness was discovered at 3, preventing him from physical play. Out of concern, I suggested drawing, something I was passionate about in my childhood and was often praised for. Tom turned out to be even more talented than me. It wasn't just that he was good at drawing. His work had a unique style and flavor. And most importantly, he looked truly happy while drawing. Wanting to share this joy with others, I casually filmed it and posted it on social media with his face hidden. A celebrity noticed and shared Tom's drawing video, leading to its rapid spread. We even started earning ad revenue. My editing skills, initially just a hobby, improved as I uploaded videos daily. And now I can take on other people's video editing jobs. Tom's drawing videos are just a hobby, so if he ever wants to stop, we'll stop. But I plan to continue studying and working on editing. More jobs should come with time. Anyway, I don't need your concern. Why didn't you tell me Tom was earning that much? If I knew, I would have. I knew you'd get greedy and push Tom too hard. I didn't want that. Ben seemed hit by the truth. He clenched his back teeth, glaring at me resentfully. Besides, I spoke with my parents, and they're supporting us. I don't need your help, Ben. I have plenty of people I can rely on. But... Ben stood up shakily and grabbed Tom's shoulder. Tom, you want to live with your dad, right? The real family is with your dad, right? Tom stared at Ben, then shook his head and gently removed Ben's hand from his shoulder. I'm fine with just Mom. She's always been there to help me. When I was scared, upset, or happy, Mom was always there to listen. But Tom, we're blood related. We're the real family. But you ran away when I needed you. How can you call yourself a father? Faced with Tom's direct gaze, Ben recoils. Tom, but I care about you too. Stop it already. I'm already in elementary school. I don't even call you Dad anymore. I call Mom Mom. You didn't even know that, and you're claiming to be a father? But, Tom, you should have just stayed with Sally. Even if she's a man, it's rare to find someone who likes you. Ben had no comeback to Tom's blunt rejection. He finally seemed to give up, shoulders drooping in defeat. I knew if I showed any weakness, he'd try to gain sympathy, so Tom and I firmly refused and left the house. Then, please handle the rest through the lawyer, were my last words to Ben, who offered no response. Ben, learning that Tom was earning money, didn't back down easily and refused to divorce. Tom is my precious son. We share blood. Why should we live apart? That's absurd. Despite his previous lack of interest, he desperately tried to claim custody. Surprisingly, it was my in-laws who persuaded him. Ben, we heard everything from Tom. You hardly cared for him, left everything to Sophia, and were off cheating? How dare you claim any rights now? Exactly. Raising a child isn't easy. You shirked your responsibility onto Sophia. Now you scramble at the last minute? It's disgraceful. I was wrong about them. I thought they resented Tom. But they had been tirelessly caring for him. Tom even said, I'd like to see Grandpa and Grandma after the divorce. Thanks to their repeated persuasions, Ben finally agreed to the divorce. Of course, I demanded child support. Although it seemed like there were no savings, it was discovered that Ben had secretly stashed away money in an account. Thankfully, I was able to receive child support from there. My in-laws promised to take responsibility for supervising Ben. Interestingly, Sally later reported Ben to the CEO of a construction, and Ben became a target at the company. He found it difficult to stay and ended up resigning. Now, he's just getting by with part-time jobs. Tom and I are living happily together. His love for drawing is still very much alive. His cheerful demeanor while drawing is truly adorable. He's continuing with his rehabilitation. It's slow, but his legs are steadily improving. I make sure not to push him too hard, supporting him in his efforts. As for my video editing work, my dreams have actually changed since then. I've enrolled in a school to become a physical therapist. The motive is simple. The therapists who supported Tom in his efforts looked so admirable, and I found myself aspiring to be like them. I dream of helping children like Tom someday. Recently, people have been saying Tom and I look alike. Even though we're not blood related. Tom says shyly, which I find so endearing. As his mother, I vow to support him until he's fully grown, though the thought of that day is bittersweet and fills me with mixed emotions. On the eve of our wedding, a celebration was held with both families present. Suddenly remembering something, I returned to the apartment I shared with my fiancé, Michael. As I was about to knock on the bathroom door, I overheard Michael talking with his sister, Yvonne. Why is Yvonne in our bathroom? There's only one conclusion. She's great as a housekeeper and ATM. Just flatter him a bit, and she does whatever I say. Our parents always favored me, so she's starved for affection. Poor thing. I contacted Michael's family home, arranged to connect their mobile phone to the TV, and then followed the two of them as they headed to the bedroom. I waited for the start of the second round and then began the live commentary. Everyone, look at this. A fiancé getting involved with his sister-in-law, and the sister stealing her sibling's man. They're like beasts in a zoo, a pair of rare animals. Michael and Yvonne looked at me in shock. In my heart, I declared war on Michael and Yvonne. They've both thoroughly mocked me. Don't think for a moment that you'll get through tomorrow unscathed. My name is Kelly, a 42-year-old office worker. I was about to marry my colleague Michael. Actually, I divorced 10 years ago due to my ex-husband's infidelity and thought I was done with marriage. However, a few years ago, I started working on the same team as Michael and was instantly charmed by his smile. With leadership qualities, a love for jokes, and a straightforward nature, Michael was the complete opposite of me, serious and not very articulate. Lacking confidence in myself, I never thought we would end up together. So, I was quite surprised when he asked me out. Even accepting his proposal, I felt a mix of happiness and anxiety. Maybe it was pre-wedding jitters, but my intuition was right. After a while, something extraordinary happened. I have a sister, Yvonne, 2 years older than me. While it's common for siblings to be compared, it was especially bad in our case. From birth, it seemed like I had bad luck. My father, wanting a son, exclaimed, "We don't need another girl," when he found out his second child was also a daughter. My mother told me this wasn't any better. My father, who desired a boy, adored Yvonne as she resembled our beautiful mother. Even my mother, who dressed Yvonne up for my birthday parties, was more focused on her than me. Yvonne charmed not just our parents, but everyone around her. People would compare us and then pity me. "You're plain compared to your sister, you don't resemble your mother, poor thing, always overshadowed by your sister, if only you were born prettier." Our grandmother, who raised us while our self-employed parents were busy, treated us equally. Thanks to her, I managed to stay on the right path. But once she passed away, I had no allies at home. Even if Yvonne broke something, she would be forgiven with just a teary apology. In my case, I was scolded harshly. When Yvonne lied and got caught, our father gently admonished her. Such lies are easily caught. But when the 5-year-old me lied, he yelled furiously. "You're the worst kind of person. Liars don't belong in our house. Get out right now." Though I wasn't thrown out, I spent some time in fear of being abandoned by my father. Meanwhile, my mother would sigh as she dressed us in matching outfits. "You're not as cute as your sister, why don't these look good on you?" Being treated like this by our parents, it was no wonder Yvonne grew up spoiled. By upper elementary school, our relationship was more like master and servant. "I want ice cream. Buy it for me now. After I finish my homework." "I don't care about that. Hurry up." Complaining to our parents made me the bad one. "Just buy her the ice cream. Listen to your sister." And Yvonne only showed her true self in front of me, acting sweet in front of our parents, friends, and teachers. So, no one but me knew Yvonne was a liar, cunning, and spoiled. Sometimes, Yvonne would look at me with pity and smirk. Poor Kelly. Always compared even when doing the same things. Born to the same parents, but I'm the princess, and you're the servant. Is life even fun for you? I was so angry, but instead of retorting, I tried to earn praise from our parents through study and sports. I was always top of the class and won many awards in track and field. But instead of being pleased, my father ridiculed me. An accomplished woman is unseemly. If only you were cute like Yvonne. Fed up with everyone fawning over Yvonne, I finally found an ally. One day in middle school, Yvonne's best friend, Angie, stormed into our house, furious. She had caught Yvonne flirting with her boyfriend behind the school and confronted her, only for Yvonne to be defiant. She said, "Well, I thought he suited me better. He likes me more than Angie too. Sorry. I had no idea she was like that. We're done." Angie, crying and angry, I could only apologize profusely.
I'm sorry my sister did such a terrible thing. You were always so nice to her. It's awful.
Don't apologize, Kelly. If Yvonne ever bullies you, tell me. I'm on your side. That was the start of our messaging and friendship. Even after going to different high schools, we stayed close, meeting for lunch on weekends. Desperate to escape my suffocating home, I went to a university with dorms on a scholarship. Finally away from my sister, I thrived in college and landed a job at a major corporation. A few years later, I married a colleague. But within a year, he inexplicably asked for a divorce. Despite my asking, he never clearly explained why, and we parted ways. I thought I was done with marriage, but after 10 years, I felt lonely being single. Growing up in a family where I was discriminated against, I longed to create a happy home. I hoped to remarry if I found the right person. That's when I met Michael. When I took Michael to my parents' house, my parents, who are concerned about appearances, seemed quite pleased with the high-spec Michael. Graduated from a national university, working at a large corporation. While they dismissed me as unladylike despite having the same status, they couldn't stop praising Michael. Relieved that my Carl was well received by my parents, I was caught off guard when Yvonne returned home. Yvonne, still a single part-timer living at her parents' house without contributing financially even in her 40s, was known to spend her Friday nights out and about. That's why we chose to have the meeting on a Friday, thinking she wouldn't be home. But, just this once, she decided to come home early. After hearing about the meeting from our parents, Yvonne must have rushed home straight from her part-time job, intending to charm Michael. "Nice to meet you, I'm Yvonne, Kelly's sister." Yvonne greeted us in a sweet voice, and Michael blushed and froze. This reaction was typical, so I was used to it. But Michael didn't just gaze at Yvonne, he started chatting non-stop. "Wow, you are super beautiful." Shocked by his behavior, Michael then chided me. "Kelly, why didn't you introduce me sooner? If I knew she was this beautiful, I would have wanted to meet her earlier." "Really? I thought both of you were busy." "Normally, you wouldn't go out of your way to introduce your sister, right?" As Michael compared me and Yvonne, his excitement apparent, he said. "You two don't look alike at all. Were you adopted or something, Kelly?" Everyone else, except for me, burst into loud laughter. "Yvonne looks like a movie star." "Thank you. You're quite handsome yourself, Michael." Yvonne's flattery made Michael's ears turn red. "I'm nothing special." "But Yvonne, you have such class and shine. If I marry Kelly, I get to call such a beauty my sister-in-law. I have to introduce her to my friends. They'll be so jealous." Michael kept talking dreamily. "Yvonne's skin is so fair, like it's translucent. Kelly, you look older by comparison. Oh, drinking with beauty, this is life. Michael, you have good taste. Michael, please take good care of Yvonne." My parents' words left me dumbfounded. Michael's behavior was odd, but so were my parents' reactions. Usually, parents would be upset if their daughter's fiancé praised the sister like that. Yet, my parents were beaming with joy, clearly delighted.
Michael, that was awful. Praising my sister in front of me.
On the way home, I complained in the car, and Michael looked puzzled. It's a fact that Yvonne is beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, but...
You know I'm honest and say what I think. I get restless keeping things inside. Michael showed no remorse, and I frowned.
I know that, but there's a limit.
What's the problem? You hate secrets, right?
Just stop praising my sister in front of me. It makes me feel bad.
Okay, I get it. However, Michael soon forgot my request. Even after we set a wedding date, he kept bringing up Yvonne, comparing us, and incessantly praising her.
If you like my sister so much, why don't you marry her?
Frustrated, I snapped, and Michael hurriedly explained. Sorry. Yvonne is my type, so I just... But I want to marry you, Kelly. I was drawn to your homely charm. He said this with a laugh. Kelly is great at cooking and cleaning. I'm really bad at that stuff, so it's a huge help. After getting engaged, Michael, who lived alone, moved into my apartment. We're getting married soon, so let's live together, he insisted, starting our cohabitation forcefully. He does pay half the rent and living expenses, but he never helps with the housework, leaving it all to me. I work full-time too, with overtime and sometimes working on weekends. Yet, when I come home tired, Michael lounges on the couch, playing with his phone, glancing at me. Welcome back. Dinner ready yet? I asked you to bring in the laundry. You were off today, right? Michael scratches his head. Did you ask me that? Sorry, I forgot. I wanted to relax a bit. I'll help out after we're married. We plan to both work after getting married. Will he really help with the housework? His attitude makes me uncertain, but I didn't want to argue before the wedding, so I didn't push too hard. The night before our wedding, I received a call from Michael's parents. They wanted to have a pre-wedding celebration and asked me to bring my family to their house. I was a bit worried. For the past few months, Michael suddenly became very busy at work. Lots of overtime, business trips, and working on weekends. He mostly comes home late at night. Even on weekends, he works one day or the other. We work at the same company, but in different departments. It's not the busy season, so why is he so busy? I can't complain if it's work-related. Luckily, all the wedding preparations were done. I'm happy about the invitation, but I might get home late because of overtime. If that happens, you can start without me. Got it. I'll make sure to save some of your favorite meatloaf for you, so don't worry and focus on your work. The day before, Michael had this conversation with his mother over the phone. I informed my parents, but my father seemed indifferent. His dad is a good talker, and we're fans of the same baseball team. I'm looking forward to talking about baseball. He just wants to drink and have fun under the guise of his daughter's wedding. Well, it's better if the parents get along. I don't particularly like my parents, but Michael's seem nice, and they seem to get along, which was a relief. On the day of the pre-wedding celebration, I received a message from Michael. He had to stay late for unexpected work. When I told Michael's parents, my mom suddenly remembered. By the way, Yvonne is also running late because of her part-time job. That's unusual, I thought. Normally, she'd leave work early, not caring if someone called in sick. Soon, both sets of parents were toasting with beer and wine, surrounding the big platter of meatloaf, chatting happily. After setting aside some for Michael, I picked mine onto a small plate. Then I remembered something crucial. I completely forgot to revise the speech notes that a bride reads to her parents. I didn't really want to do it because my feelings of resentment towards my parents were stronger than my gratitude. But my mother insisted on including that part in the ceremony, so I reluctantly added it. When I started writing, it turned into complaints about how my parents discriminated against Yvonne and me. If I read it as it is tomorrow, it would dampen the mood. I need to force some words of gratitude. Before drinking, I should revise it here. I sneakily left Michael's parents' house and returned to the apartment we shared. Looking up from the parking lot, I saw the bathroom light on. Michael must be taking a shower before coming over. Thinking this, I went up to our apartment in the elevator. Not wanting to startle him, I thought I'd announce my return. As I walked down the hallway and was about to knock on the bathroom door, I heard Michael's voice. "I'm gonna miss you during the honeymoon." "I'll miss you too, Michael." I almost shouted out loud. Why is Yvonne in our bathroom with Michael? There's only one conclusion. They're having an affair. I felt like I was going to collapse from shock, but I braced myself against the wall. Then, Michael said with a half smile. "Kelly's great as a housekeeper and an ATM. Perfect with housework and earns as much as I do. Simple-minded too, just a little flattery and she does whatever I say. Our parents always favored me, so she's starved for affection. Poor thing." Their tone was mocking, and anger shook through me. If only she were a bit cuter, I'd treat her nicely. She's gotten a lot better than before. That? Seriously? How ugly was she? Michael laughed heartily, and Yvonne replied in her sweet voice. I was embarrassed to introduce her to my friends. But one day, I realized she's perfect as my foil, so I put up with her. I see. But she's smart, you know. Too cheeky. She's good at her job too. Well, she wouldn't have any value otherwise. Oh, right. Their laughter and Yvonne's excited voice filled me with deep anger. I didn't get smart by chance, I worked hard. And at work, I learned everything I could. How could they not see that while living with me? In my heart, I declared war on Michael and Yvonne. They've both completely belittled me. Don't think tomorrow will come without incident. After a while, Yvonne's uninhibited voice drifted down the hallway. I turned the doorknob of the bathroom, thankfully unlocked. I quietly entered, searching for Michael and Yvonne's cell phones. Both were unlocked, so I looked for evidence of their affair, sending it to my phone. I also recorded their amorous sounds and sent them with a message to certain people. Eventually, their voices stopped. I stepped out into the hallway and hid behind a houseplant, holding my breath. Yvonne, carried out of the bathroom in Michael's arms, laughed joyously. Kelly's probably stuffing herself with meatloaf right now, unaware I'm in Michael's arms. What a fool! Cheating on the night before the wedding is the best. Such a thrill. I could get addicted. Hey, don't you dare cheat with another woman. Come on, I'm only into you, Yvonne. Their banter made my stomach churn, but I restrained myself and waited for them to enter the bedroom. I followed quietly and pressed my ear against the door. It sounded like they were starting round two. Their energetic voices filled the hallway. I wanted to cover my ears but waited for a response from my parents. Finally, the phone rang. Kelly, what was all that? Just what you heard. Yvonne and Michael are having an affair. I could hear Michael's parents' cries of shock over the speaker. Our Yvonne wouldn't do such a thing. Surely you're mistaken, Kelly. Come back and make some snacks. My mother spoke disinterestedly behind my father. My boiling blood suddenly went cold. Not again. To my parents, Yvonne always seems like a gentle, adorable angel, no matter her age. It's always me who's wrong. I sighed heavily and clenched my fists. Until now, I hadn't argued back to avoid conflict, but this time, I couldn't back down. With a quiet anger, I told my father. So what are you saying? That I made all this up? My father seemed caught off guard by my challenge. No, I'm not saying that. Kelly, how can you speak to your father like that? Just connect it to the TV already. Kelly, it's connected. Michael's parents had stepped in to help, replacing my reluctant parents. Do we just wait like this? Yes, thank you. I'll start the live broadcast now. I hung up the phone and, like a TV show host, began to speak into the mic. Let's storm into the scene of Michael Turner and Yvonne Johnson's affair. Bang! I opened the bedroom door and aimed my phone camera at the bed. The two, caught in the act, stared at me, frozen. Look, everyone. The man who cheats with his bride's sister on the eve of their wedding, and the woman who stole her sister's fiancé. A pair of beasts that would make even zoo animals blush. Michael and Yvonne scrambled for the sheet. Yvonne snatched it away, leaving Michael to fall off the bed and hurriedly cover himself with a pillow.
No, this isn't what it looks. Well, you see. Michael was just nervous about the wedding tomorrow. I was just comforting him.
Yvonne's strained explanation almost made me laugh. At times like this, I really feel how empty-headed Yvonne is. That's a ridiculous excuse. Do you really think that'll work?
Stop it. Yvonne's done nothing wrong.
Michael snapped at me. Defending your affair partner? Are you saying it's your fault?
It's all your fault.
Michael pointed at me, frothing at the mouth.
If you were prettier, I wouldn't have cheated.
I was speechless. Really? By the way, Michael, did you know? Yvonne didn't fall for you. She went after you because you were mine. She'll dump you soon enough. Michael's eyes widened before he smirked. I get it. You're just jealous. We're not getting married, but we're really in love. As Michael puffed up his chest, I kindly informed him. Yvonne has always enjoyed taking what belongs to others. She seduced and then discarded her friends' boyfriends, one after another. Because of her nasty nature, she doesn't have a single friend left. Right, Angie? Angie, who had entered the bedroom, nodded at my words. Long time no see, Yvonne. Stealing your sister's man, what a great sister you are. Angie's sarcasm made Yvonne purse her lips.
Don't twist my words. I just happened to fall for my sister's fiancé.
When it happens twice, it's no longer a coincidence. Yvonne trembled slightly at my retort. Let me borrow this for a second. I took Yvonne's phone from the bathroom, found a particular image, and showed it to Michael, who looked away. In the image, Yvonne and my ex-husband were wrapped in sheets, cuddling on the bed.
Yvonne, you were also involved with Kelly's ex-husband?
It's Kelly and Angie's fault for being losers. Yvonne defiantly declared. These people, and my friends too, they have no charm as women. That's why when I show interest, men are all drawn to me. They can't even choose a man right. I nodded in agreement. You have a point. I should have chosen someone more sincere. Michael, feeling uncomfortable, looked away.
Hey, Kelly.
Right. The main problem is your looks. Yvonne, now on a roll, laughed annoyingly. Being pretty gets you pampered by men and women alike. Even my parents do whatever I say. My boss at the part-time job even overlooks my fake sick days. Life is easy. I held my forehead and muttered. Poor thing. What? Do you know why Michael chose me over you as a spouse? Because he met you at work, right? Yvonne looked dismissive. He could have switched to you after meeting you. Too much hassle for the parents. Right, Michael? I smiled thinly.
Oh, my phone too.
I will borrow this. I took Michael's phone, showed Yvonne something, and her smile disappeared. Kelly's sister is really pretty. Totally my type. Too bad she's not smarter. A dumb mistress is fine, but a clueless and domestic skill-less wife? No thanks. 42 and still a part-timer, no thanks. Dropped out after 3 days on a difficult job, high school grad. Wants to be a housewife but spends lavishly on brands. No way. Michael turned pale. The message displayed on the screen was one that Michael had sent to a friend. Yvonne's expression turned to anger.
Michael, who do you think you are? You're lucky to be with a beauty like me, don't get cocky. Yvonne, you're pretty, but there are lots of beauties around. And at your age, well, a fine lady, oops. Look who's talking, old man.
Let's break up. I'm done with you. Yvonne stood tall, pretending to be strong. I still have my parents. They treat me like a princess. They cook for me every day. I hope they stay healthy and keep cooking. Using aging parents as servants, huh? Typical.
You were planning to make Kelly do all the housework after marriage.
It's a wife's duty. The argument between Michael and Yvonne escalated.
Such outdated views for a working couple. No wonder you're only getting married at this age. Don't need a lecture from an unmarried woman.
I addressed them as they began to fight earnestly. Yvonne, are you sure you want to spill all this?
What do you mean?
The camera's still rolling. The live broadcast to our parents isn't over.
What?
Yvonne's face turned ashen. By now, there's probably chaos at Michael's house. Both of your actions, and Yvonne's true nature, are now known to our parents. What do I do, Kelly? Yvonne, more flustered than ever, clung to me. What? I don't know. You did it willingly, clean up your own mess. I sharply dismissed her and turned to Michael. I can't live in a room where you two were intimate. I'll cancel the lease. And I'll be claiming compensation for breaking off the engagement. Pay the cancellation fee for the venue too. After letting out all I wanted to say, I stopped the camera. Resisting the urge to throw the engagement and wedding rings in Michael's face, I neatly arranged them on the bedside table. Michael, covering his body with a pillow and wearing a sour expression, along with Yvonne, who was half crying, were left behind as Angie and I exited the room. But it wasn't over yet. After parting with Angie and returning to Michael's parents' house, another commotion awaited. Expecting his parents to be disappointed with Yvonne's true nature, I was surprised to find them quite lively. The first thing they said to me, looking completely exhausted, was, "Kelly, you're calling off the engagement with Michael, right?" "Of course." "Oh, that's good." "Good." I was stunned by their reaction. My parents then apologized to Michael's parents and said, "Please take Yvonne as your daughter-in-law instead. That will settle everything nicely."
Wait, what? That's not possible. They're breaking up, right?
My parents insisted, smiling at Michael's confused parents. "Don't worry. Once they're married, they'll surely get along well. Kelly thinks so too, right? Breaking them up when they love each other would be too cruel. We want them to be happy." Feeling a headache coming on, I pressed my hand against my forehead. It's nonsense. The wedding venue is already booked, so it's perfect. We'll just change the bride's name. We made a mistake with their name. No problem. I was utterly dismayed at my parents, who were chatting excitedly. You saw the live broadcast earlier, right? Didn't that bother you? Yvonne took my fiancé. You're to blame for not keeping Michael. My mother nodded in agreement. It's your fault for not being born beautiful. It's like an old drama, your fiancé stole the night before your wedding. My mother chuckled, and my father laughed too. Staring at my parents who were laughing at my misfortune, I realized that they would forgive Yvonne for anything. They had no love for me at all. Michael's mother's voice broke into my thoughts. Are you even a mother? As I looked up, Michael's parents were angrily confronting mine.
We're truly sorry for our son's betrayal of Kelly. But, let me say one thing. It's wrong to take Yvonne's side. Comforting Kelly should be the natural response of parents. To laugh at Kelly and defend Yvonne, you don't deserve to call yourselves Kelly's parents. Shut up! Leave us alone!
My mother snapped back.
Your son must have seduced Yvonne. She wouldn't do such a thing, they insisted. That's right. Even if he hadn't met Yvonne, he would have definitely cheated with some other woman.
Michael's parents were stunned.
That's ridiculous. How can you defend your daughter's actions like that? You're utterly unreasonable. We didn't expect this from you. Please leave, you're unpleasant. That's our line. Poor Yvonne, to be in mutual love but unable to marry. It can't be helped, Dad. It just wasn't meant to be with Michael. Yvonne's a good girl, after all. I'm sure she'll soon meet someone wonderful again.
My parents, somberly reflective, left hastily without cleaning up the mess they had made from eating, just gathering their belongings and exiting. Feeling awkward, I still managed to clear the table, taking the dishes my parents and I used to the sink and wiping down the table. As I gathered my things to leave, I noticed Michael's parents, who had come to the entrance to see me off, apologized deeply. "We apologize on behalf of our son. We're sorry for the pain we caused you. You don't have to forgive us. We're truly sorry." The tone was genuinely apologetic. "Kelly, there's definitely someone more deserving of you than our son. I hope you find the right person and be happy." "Yes. Thank you," I replied, bowing slightly before leaving Michael's family home. I found an apartment closer to my workplace and moved there. I arranged for a courier service to transfer my belongings from the apartment I had been sharing to the new one. I waited for Michael to clear out his stuff before canceling the lease. Not planning to see him again, I had a lawyer demand alimony. Surprisingly, Michael, who I thought would comply easily, started to balk at the payment. Apparently, the cancellation fees for the wedding venue and honeymoon were higher than expected, depleting his savings. He seemed to be trying to get on my good side, hoping to reduce the alimony.
$4 million in alimony is too much. In fact, we shouldn't even have to pay alimony, right? It was just a half-year affair. We didn't have a kid or anything. Just let it slide.
When I ignored the persistent messages, he started getting angry.
You earn a decent salary too, so why are you trying to squeeze money out of me? It's your greediness that makes you unattractive.
Fed up, I blocked Michael's contact and dropped his messages into his company's group chat. The messages spread from Michael's colleagues to employees in other departments. His once serious image crumbled, and his reputation plummeted. Michael, finding it uncomfortable to stay at the company, quit and moved to a smaller local business. The company he moved to was a low-paying company, and Michael, who had paid me the alimony by getting into debt, seemed unable to quit. Since he was disowned by his parents, he couldn't borrow money and had to work desperately every day to repay his debts. Yvonne was also furious when I demanded alimony for both affairs.
There's no way I have that kind of money. We're family, you should just let it go for free. Yeah, why should our sister have to pay you? You're only focused on money, that's why Michael left you.
My parents accused over the phone. Annoyed, I blocked all 3 of their numbers. Later, I heard from relatives that my parents and Yvonne, having bragged about this ordeal at a family gathering, faced tremendous backlash and became outcasts. Yvonne, forced to pay my alimony, increased her part-time work hours. But unfortunately, one of her new jobs was managed by our cousin. Labeled as the sister who stole her sibling's fiancé, she struggled to find another job and endured a tense work environment. As for me, though my dream of a happy family was shattered, I was able to resolve my longing to cut ties with my family. Despite all the unpleasant experiences I had as a child, deep down, I was still hoping for it. I had been hoping to hear my parents say, "Kelly is just as important as Yvonne," or "Kelly is our precious daughter," but after this incident, I've completely given up on that expectation. However, I felt a sense of clarity. My work improved, and I was recently promoted to branch manager. At a local matchmaking event I attended with Angie, I met a wonderful man. He also had issues with his parents, and we shared a desire to build a warm family. Whether I'll remarry remains to be seen, but for now, I'm considering dating him.
Get out, I'm going to live with her.
I was stunned by Sean's sudden loud declaration. Behind Sean, I saw Kathy smirking. Probably, Kathy had persuaded Sean to take this action. Regaining my composure, I thought for a moment and responded. I was glad I had been suspicious and investigated. I had already started moving towards divorce, so Sean choosing Kathy didn't matter to me. But their naivety was astounding. Telling me to leave, how dare they? Fortunately, I have a strong ally. I'm going to teach these 2 a lesson about reality. My name is Margot McLean, a 30-year-old office worker. I met my husband, Sean, at the same company we worked at. Sean, from a different department, worked in sales while I was in planning. We first met at the company-wide welcome party for new employees. We happened to sit next to each other and hit it off, exchanging contacts then and there. A few months later, he asked me to go out, but I was new and too busy learning my job to think about dating. Sean said, "I'll wait until you are ready." 2 years had passed, and by then, I had become quite proficient at my job. On my 24th birthday, when we went out for dinner together, we decided to have a relationship. Sean was very handsome, and dating him made me the envy of many. After 3 years of dating, he proposed, and we got married. I lived alone in a house, and Sean moved in with me. I have a close sister. Her name is Mina Turner, a designer currently working overseas. I told Mina about living with Sean. Mina, who couldn't come to our wedding, said, "Then I'll send a gift to your home," and she gave me clothes she designed. Since living with Sean, Mina has returned home twice, but hasn't met Sean due to scheduling conflicts. She kept saying that I'll definitely meet him someday. We agreed that I would become a homemaker once we had children, but for now, we were both working hard. Recently, however, Sean's behavior changed. He used to always refuse business trips, but now he went on them frequently and started coming home late from drinking. Sometimes he wouldn't come home at all after a night out. When I asked where he stayed, he would only say at a friend's. Thinking about why he started acting this way, I remembered hearing rumors. Rumors were about a woman named Kathy, who started working. Kathy was very cute and seemed like the kind of woman men would want to protect. Perhaps because of this, she wasn't well liked by the female employees. Kathy was known for her numerous rumors involving men. She was close to Sean, and rumors were that Kathy was targeting him. At the time, I thought these were baseless rumors and ignored them. But now that I think about it, Sean started coming home late around the time those rumors began. Feeling uneasy, I was in the lounge when Kathy walked in. It felt awkward, so I decided to leave and then noticed the scent of her perfume. I remembered that Sean had recently bought a similar perfume. Whether it was a coincidence or because of the rumors, I started feeling sick. As I passed by Kathy on my way to the restroom, she laughed at me. That moment turned my suspicions into convictions, but I lacked proof. I decided to gather evidence of Sean's infidelity. The day before Sean said he was going on a business trip, I asked a reliable supervisor at work if Sean was really going. It turned out Sean had taken 3 days off. My supervisor asked, "Isn't Sean's mom unwell? Aren't you taking any time off?" To which I responded with a denial. I hadn't heard about my mother-in-law being sick, and she seemed fine when I last called. After discussing my suspicion that Sean might be cheating with my supervisor, I was given the same days off as Sean. I used those 3 days to follow Sean. When I got home early, Sean asked, "What happened to your car?" I lied that it was having issues, so I borrowed a replacement, and he believed me without question. In reality, anticipating Sean would use the car, I had rented one the day before and left my car at my parents' house. The next day, as expected, Sean left in the car, and I discreetly followed him. He headed to an apartment. I waited in a position where I could see the entrance. Of course, I was ready to take evidence photos with my phone. Sean either had a key or the door was unlocked, as he entered by himself. An hour later, the door opened again, and I saw Sean and Kathy come out. Sean had gone to Kathy's apartment. I was prepared, but seeing the happy couple in front of me, I couldn't hold back my tears. Then they got into the car and drove off, so I followed them. They headed to a jewelry shop. I parked a little far in a parking lot and entered the shop. I had disguised myself just in case, which allowed me to follow them. They were looking at rings, and from eavesdropping, it seemed they were selecting an engagement ring. Sean, already married, what was he thinking? I was irritated. They chose an expensive-looking diamond ring. Afterward, they went to a fancy French restaurant. I couldn't enter as I didn't have a reservation, but managed to capture them arm in arm entering the restaurant. I waited for them to come out and continued following. They returned to Kathy's apartment and didn't come out until morning, so I stayed at a nearby hotel. The next morning, I was on standby early but only saw them leave the house once. They came out together, holding hands, and went to the nearby store, then quickly returned home. On the third day, they hardly left the house except for brief trips to the store, but I managed to take quite a few photos. Still feeling it wasn't enough, I hired a detective agency. A few weeks later, the results from the agency arrived, and all that was left was to bring up the divorce. As I was wondering how to bring up the topic, Sean returned home from his so-called business trip, which was actually an affair. I told him as soon as he got back, "We need to talk later. I just got home, you know? I can't talk now. I was about to go to sleep." "What about dinner and a shower?" "I have already done them. You know, talking to you just irritates me. Can you only talk to me when I'm in a good mood?" "Margot, you've really aged. You don't even bother with makeup at home, it's like you've given up being a woman." Laughing, Sean returned to his bedroom. I was irritated. Everyone ages, and it's okay to be without makeup at home. Besides, how was I supposed to know when he was in a good mood? For now, I decided to drop the divorce talk, take a shower, and go to bed. The next day, after finishing work on time, I hoped I could finally have the conversation. To my surprise, Sean came home much earlier than usual. The heavy footsteps in the hallway and the unusual air about him made me uneasy. The next moment, he burst into the living room. "I'm going to live with her, so get out." I was stunned by Sean's sudden loud declaration. Behind Sean, I saw Kathy smirking mischievously. Probably, Kathy had convinced Sean to act this way. Trying to stay calm, I asked Sean for a reason.
Why? What happened all of a sudden?
"Kathy, she only has 6 months to live. I want to spend as much time as possible with her, to create memories. She said she always wanted to live in a house like this. So, Margot, you need to leave." Kathy stuck out her tongue from behind Sean. I was infuriated by her actions, but then got an idea for a satisfying revenge. Telling them to wait, I went to the bedroom to get something I had prepared. When I returned to the living room, they looked puzzled. I said, "Fine, thinking this isn't my house anyway." "Great, Sean." "Sorry, Margot, for taking your husband." It's okay, it's okay." "So, Sean, can you sign this right away?" I said, handing him the divorce papers, and Sean looked a bit bewildered. However, Kathy urged him, saying hurry up and sign it, and Sean reluctantly signed the divorce papers. After confirming the signature, I showed them the compensation agreement prepared by my lawyer. They were shocked. Sean asked, "Why did you prepare this?" But I was ready for divorce anyway, so it was only natural. I demanded $60,000 from Sean. Sean agreed to the amount. Kathy was clearly unhappy.
"I only have 6 months to live, and you're demanding compensation from a poor girl like me? You're a monster."
"Poor girl? Okay, let's do this. If you're still alive after 6 months, then I'll demand the compensation then, and it'll be $1 million. How about that?" I made a bold proposal to Kathy. Later on, I requested the lawyer to proceed with our divorce. I was profoundly grateful that I had recorded the conversation about the divorce on my cell phone for evidence. After all, evidence is crucial. Since I'm off tomorrow, I'll pack up and leave the day after tomorrow. Oh, and don't worry, I'll file the divorce papers right after this. So, this meeting is over now. Hurry up and leave, I said, concluding the discussion. Sean and Kathy left hand in hand, looking cozy together. I started packing as soon as I got home and called my sister Mina. She found my strategy amusing and said, "That sounds interesting." I always knew she was a great sister. Mina was planning to return from abroad in 6 months, so we decided to carry out the revenge then. The next day at work, everyone was talking about us. The rumor was that Kathy had finally snatched a married man. Unable to bear their sympathetic glances, I went to another room to get some materials for the day. When I opened the door and turned on the light, there was Sean and Kathy. Kathy was clinging to Sean, and they froze when they saw me. I quickly took a photo with my cell phone and left the room. Then, I rushed to report the incident to my supervisor and showed the photo. My supervisor was furious, knowing about the affair. Soon after, the two of them were called to the president's office with me. As I told everything, Sean tried to explain away the incident in the room as a misunderstanding. However, the company had recently installed cameras in each room that could capture clear footage even in the dark, and of course, there was footage from the room. With no way out, Sean faced a cancellation of raise. Kathy couldn't renew her contract. Sean, unable to bear the scrutiny, resigned voluntarily. Finally, I could return to a peaceful life. 6 months later, I was at the airport to pick up Mina. We reunited and chatted on our way back to my former home. Mina used her key to enter the house. As we walked in, I stayed behind Mina, recording everything.
You! What are you doing entering someone else's house?
This is my house, though? I joined in.
Hey there. Marco?
Yes, this is my sister's house. Didn't you know? Indeed, the house belonged to my sister Mina. I had been living there at Mina's request to take care of it while she was away. That's why I reported to Mina when I started living with Sean, and she gave her permission. Moreover, the utility bills were automatically paid from Mina's account. It was a thoughtful arrangement Mina made for my convenience. Had Sean not realized he hadn't been paying for utilities all this time? Normally, I think they'd notice right away, but maybe they're just daydreaming. Even so, Kathy had been living alone, so she should have known about utilities. But the fact that she didn't realize it is beyond surprising. It's actually hilarious.
I brought a copy of the half-year statement since you and Margot divorced.
Wonder how much it adds up to.
Let's see, including the alimony, the amount to buy this house would be $500,000, right?
Sean is shocked looking at the statement. Hearing our voices, Kathy comes out of the bedroom.
Why are you here? And who is that woman?
Oh, this is my sister Mina. Besides, it's Mina's house, so it's not odd for the owner to be here, right? You look well, that's good. Now you can pay the money. As I say that, Kathy mutters "oh no" under her breath. Sean says, I don't have such a large sum as $500,000. Then, should I sue you for trespassing? I pretend to call the police. Sean hastily says he'll figure something out. Just then, the doorbell rings. It seems the lawyer I called has arrived.
Since we're here, let's have a detailed discussion with the lawyer present.
The lawyer who helped me during my divorce seemed to have a good grasp of the situation. When the lawyer handed Sean the official documents, he visibly slumped in disappointment. Kathy starts to get angry again.
I didn't know this wasn't Sean's house. I was told it was his, so I just lived here.
Well, it doesn't really matter. Let's have Sean pay up. Kathy was making a fuss, saying she made no such promise and there's no proof, and that $60,000 is too much. So, I played the recording of our conversation from 6 months ago. See, there's your proof, I say, and she can't say anything back. Sean suddenly realizes something.
By the way, Kathy, you mentioned earlier about having only 6 months to live. What's that about?
Kathy tries to change the subject.
Okay. We'll pay, just leave.
With that, we quickly leave. Sean ends up buying the house from Mina, but considering the amount, he decides to sell it instead. About a month later, Sean visited my parents' house. I hesitate but decide to open the door, thinking it could be interesting.
Glad you're home. I wanted to talk to Margot. Is that okay?
Sure. If it's here, that's fine. Make it quick. So, what's up? Sean's story boils down to him claiming he was deceived and wasn't in the wrong. He initially refused Kathy's advances but ended up getting involved with her after going out for drinks just once. He said the relationship just kind of dragged on from there and he felt powerless to stop it. I see, so you couldn't help it. Poor you.
You understand, Margot?
No, I don't. People who really couldn't help it wouldn't act like this. I showed him the photos I took when I followed him. Sean falls silent. After a while, Sean starts talking again, as if remembering something.
Right, I didn't want a divorce. It was Kathy's fault, that was the part one couldn't help.
I ask why he didn't want to divorce, and Sean starts explaining. Kathy was a cute affair partner. It seems she had a terminal illness with only 6 months to live and was going to leave Sean. So, Sean's plan was to not divorce and spend those 6 months with Kathy, then come back to me. Hearing this gave me the creeps. I seriously wondered if a few screws were loose in his head. Then, unexpectedly, Kathy, who shouldn't know where my parents' house is, showed up.
Sean! I knew you'd be here with this woman. I've got a GPS app, so finding this place was easy. What do you think you're doing, running away from me? Do you realize what's gonna happen?
Apparently, Sean had fled to my place to escape from Kathy. He tried to run away after finding out her terminal illness was a lie, but Kathy was clingy and wouldn't let him go. He came to me crying about it. Seeing this, Kathy flew into a rage and, for some reason, grabbed my arm and started complaining.
It's all your fault. You're the one who demanded alimony and schemed about the house. It's creepy how you're trying to take my man too. You've messed up my life.
How about not passing the buck? Weren't you and Sean the ones who hurt me first?
If that's the case, you can't complain about getting a taste of your own medicine, right?
You hurt my life, so it's only fair. Kathy's tone got nastier as she heated up. In the middle of our argument, Sean stepped in to stop us.
Stop fighting over me.
No, we're not. What are you misunderstanding? Even if asked, I wouldn't want a guy like you. If you two would just leave and stop bothering me. Sean looked stunned at my words. He probably thought I was still hung up on him. The thought of how delusional he was made me want to laugh. I was so tired of all this that I said I would call the police, and they left as if running away. I thought I'd avoid any further involvement, but Sean was stubborn. The next day, after work, there was Sean with a bouquet of flowers in front of my office. Why are you here?
Margot! Marry me again!
He shouted so loudly that everyone gathered around. I was so embarrassed I felt like my face was on fire. I tried to ignore him and leave, but Sean grabbed my arm and held me back.
I said it was impossible yesterday. Did you forget already? I'm amazed. Don't do this. I mean, I told you not to bother me ever again.
Sean didn't seem to give up, and he kept holding my arm. Just then, someone pulled him away from me. It was Mina.
I secretly came back here, and I thought I'd surprise you by picking you up from work, but I'm really glad I came back.
Mina? Oh, Mina, I've fallen for you. I don't need Margot. I want you. So, marry me. I'll follow you anywhere, even overseas. Sean said, holding both of Mina's hands. Everyone around, including me and Mina, were taken aback by Sean's actions. Mina said it hurt, but Sean didn't let go of her hands. I instinctively shouted, dangerous. But it was too late. Mina suddenly flipped Sean over her shoulder. I hadn't mentioned it, but Mina used to train. Her sharp movements were still impressive. I was admiring them, thinking how dangerous she looked when her expression changed. That's when the police, alerted by the commotion, showed up. They seemed confused by the scene of a man down and a woman standing. Anyway, Sean was taken away by the police. That's when Sean finally shouted his true feelings. I don't care whether it's Margot or Mina. I just need someone to pay off my debts for me. Even after selling the house, there's still a debt of $400,000. I don't know what to do. I'll take anyone who'll pay it off for me. Please. As Sean was led away, Mina and I watched him go with cold eyes. The onlookers were saying things like, "That's just wrong, too much, and that lady is so cool." To ensure such an incident never happened again, Mina and I went to the police to request a restraining order. During Mina's stay, We decided to move out of my parents' house and into a high-security condo. Kathy, realizing that Sean had publicly proposed to me and not her, decided to leave him. That made sense. Why stay with a cheating man who doesn't value you, especially with nearly $400,000 in debt remaining? Kathy seemed to have woken up to reality, but she hadn't learned her lesson. She didn't want to work and was looking for a wealthy person to marry and dump the debt on. She even persistently pursued a married wealthy man in town despite being rejected. Eventually, his wife found out and had a restraining order issued against Kathy. Undeterred, Kathy's attempts became more aggressive. She even broke into a house through a window and tried to steal valuables, only to be caught when the security company arrived. Kathy ended up being taken care of by the police for a while. As for Sean, after pulling off such a stunt, he couldn't stay in the area and went back to his hometown, only to be disowned by his parents. His relatives, knowing the situation, also cut ties with him, and eventually, his friends did the same after he asked them for money. Left alone, Sean started working in a factory. He is living there but still trapped in a mountain of debt. He occasionally called me with an anonymous number, so I recently got a new phone. Now, I can finally enjoy some peace in my daily life. Since then, life has been truly peaceful, and I've even found someone I like at work. Mina is still thriving overseas, and although she only comes back occasionally, we sisters are as close as ever. I love my cool and reliable sister Mina so much. She's my pride and joy. I hope we can continue to get along without fighting, and maintain a good relationship. $76,000 should be there. William, my son, who has been sending me money for 7 years. However, the bank account shows barely anything.
Why?
When I asked the bank clerk, I was told that someone has been withdrawing money regularly. Hearing this, I suddenly remembered something. Iris, William's wife, drives me to the hospital once a month. I always enjoyed our monthly drives. But one day, I saw her rummaging through my purse while I was in the doctor's office. Not only that, I once caught her talking on the phone in a sweet voice I'd never heard, saying, "Meet me at our usual place tonight." Iris was betraying both me and William. We confronted her. We have all the evidence. At first, Iris denied it, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." But eventually, she couldn't escape and retorted, "We're a family. What's wrong with using family money?" William and I were shocked to see the always smiling and gentle Iris turn into a completely different person. Discovering the true nature of my daughter-in-law was terrifying. My name is Maria Brown, and I'm 65 years old. I met my husband through a friend's introduction. He was quiet but kind and considerate. Our conversation flowed from our first meeting, and we soon fell in love. After dating for about a year, we got married. Our wedding was attended by family, friends, and colleagues, making it a memorable and wonderful time. Then our son William was born, and we were living a happy and prosperous life. But that happiness didn't last. That morning was just like any other, a normal day. "See you later. Have a good day." I saw my husband off to work and was getting ready to leave myself. On my way to work, a call came from an unknown number. "Hello?
Is this Maria Brown? Your husband has been in an accident."
It was the police. I felt the blood drain from my face. A chill ran through me, and I hurried to the hospital.
"Is my husband okay? He's all right, isn't he?"
I was trembling as I grasped the doctor's shoulder. "I'm sorry, but..."
"No."
I was just 32 at the time. After getting married and having a child, just when it felt like our life was truly beginning. I broke down in tears. And so, I became a widow in my 30s. I was determined to protect my precious son at all costs. Since then, I've raised William by myself. I worked multiple jobs, day and night. To avoid making William feel lonely, I took Sundays off to go out with him, and we went on many trips. When William was in middle school, while most kids his age were becoming rebellious, he was different. "Mom, you're working too hard. Take a break, he would say, and brew me coffee. When I come home from school, William sometimes says, "I'll cook dinner today," and makes us a meal. He's always been considerate like that. I wonder if he got his kindness from his late father. It makes me happy to think so. One day, he came running up to me with a sudden inspiration.
Mom, I've found what I want to do.
What, all of a sudden? What do you want to do? Yeah. I will be in high school soon. I've been thinking about my future dreams. And I realized, I want to be a teacher, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. He told me how he had gotten into international music recently. He loved the music but didn't understand the lyrics, so he started translating them into English and loving sharing with his friends.
That's great. I'm rooting for you.
Then he went to a high school and later to university. The university expenses were hefty, and honestly, our finances were tight, but seeing him go to study happily every day made me think, all right, let's keep pushing on. Eventually, he graduated from university. He got the teacher certification, fulfilling his dream of becoming a middle school teacher. 20 years ago, from today, after he'd been teaching for a few years. He said, "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet," and brought home a lovely woman.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Iris. I'm dating William. She was William's girlfriend. He had had a few girlfriends before, but this was the first time he formally introduced one to me. No way. William said, "We're thinking of getting married." So, they came to introduce me to his future wife. My eyes welled up with tears as I looked into his earnest eyes. He's grown up so well. William told me he met Iris at a social gathering. Watching them talk about how they met, they looked so happy and it was heartwarming. Iris was friendly and easy to talk to. While I felt a little sad about being apart from my son, I was happy for him finding a good wife. And then they got married. They had a daughter, Emma. 16 years have passed since then, and my granddaughter Emma is now in high school. After retiring, I worked part-time for a while, but now I'm living on my pension. Perhaps because I worked too hard when I was younger, I now suffer from rheumatism and can't walk without a cane. I visit the doctor once a month, but the taxi fare to and from the hospital is honestly a strain financially. A few years ago, William and his family bought a condo near me.
Grandma, we're here.
Mom, how are you feeling? Oh, welcome. Thanks for coming as always. Well, not bad, I replied with a smile. Is Iris not with you today? She's at work again today. Mom's been really busy with work lately and hardly home. Oh, that's tough. At first, they used to come over often as a family of 3, but recently, Iris has been busy and we haven't seen much of her. I wanted to talk to you about something today, Mom. Talk. I wondered what he meant, and then he said, "Why don't you move in with us?"
What?
Mom, with your rheumatism and difficulty walking, it'd be more reassuring to have someone around, right? Luckily, we've got an extra room in our place. What do you think? Honestly, with my mobility issues, life had been challenging and I had my worries, so his offer was very welcome. But I had heard stories about in-laws moving in and causing friction in the marriage. Not wanting to cause any trouble and hoping for my son and his wife to live happily together, I said, I'd be sad to leave my familiar home. But thank you for worrying about me. Grandma. Well then, I'll deposit some money into your bank account every month. Please use that. You don't have to. I'm fine, really. What are you talking about? I know the medical and taxi expenses are a strain, aren't they? You've taken care of me all these years, let me do this much. William, thank you. A week later, my son's family came to visit again. Iris was with them this time, which had been rare lately. Maria, it's been a while. It's been a while. I heard you've been busy with work. You don't have to overdo it. Well, a little. But I'm not overdoing it. I wanted to see you, Iris said with a smile. I'm happy to see you too, Iris. Oh, I have an idea. I'll start driving you to the hospital. Iris works as an insurance saleswoman. So she has a flexible schedule and access to a company car, making it easy for her to provide transportation. But, seeing me looking apologetic, they said, it's okay. Iris is offering, after all. Right, Grandma. Let's ask Mom, okay? Are you sure it's all right? I don't want to impose. Of course, it's okay. William and Emma were all for it, so I accepted Iris's offer. From then on, once a month, Iris would drive me to the hospital. The drives with just Iris and me turned out to be really fun. She's a great conversationalist, and these trips were much more enjoyable than going alone. I even found myself looking forward to hospital days. But one day, as usual, I left my purse with Iris and went for my appointment. You seem to be doing well. Good. Thank you. After about 30 minutes and a bit of chatting, I returned to the waiting room. I was stunned to see Iris, who waited in the waiting room, going through my purse. What? Iris was taking my wallet out of my purse and looking inside. Why? I wanted to speak up, but hesitated. After watching her skillfully put the wallet back into my purse, I approached her. Iris, thanks for coming with me. No problem. Let's head back home. Iris acted as if nothing had happened. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. That night, Iris, William, and Emma came over. William, you're always so. Iris laughed as usual, unchanged. She's always been kind and considerate to me and the family. It's hard to believe she would rummage through someone's purse. What I saw today must have been a mistake. It has to be. I convinced myself. Years passed. I've been keeping my husband in his hometown cemetery, but since getting rheumatoid arthritis, I've found it hard to visit. I was thinking of asking someone to maintain the cemetery. I was happy to find it, but now, what should I do? The cost of treating my rheumatoid arthritis had been high, and I couldn't afford to keep the maintenance. I wanted to keep the place well for my husband, but it just wasn't feasible. Searching online, I found it would cost. It's impossible. Disheartened by the harsh reality, I sat on the sofa and sighed heavily. Then William called. Oh my, William. What's up? How did it go with the cemetery? It seems the maintenance fees are not cheap. I ended up venting to my son. Then William said, if the money I've been depositing monthly has added up, use that. And if it's not enough, I'll pitch in. Don't hesitate to ask. I had completely forgotten about the money William had been depositing. It was in a different bank than the one where my pension was deposited, and I never used it, so I hadn't withdrawn anything yet. Oh, right. Thank you so much. After hanging up, I decided to go to the bank to withdraw the money. When I checked my account, I saw a balance of only $9. What? I haven't withdrawn anything. Panicked, I asked the bank clerk to check. William had indeed deposited about $76,000 over the past 7 years. However, someone had been regularly withdrawing money using my cash card. I had no idea how this could have happened. I thought about telling William, but imagining how hard he worked to deposit that money, I felt too guilty to say, it's somehow gone. I was ashamed of myself for neglecting the account for 7 years. And then, on another day, Iris was again providing transportation for my hospital visit. She was chatting and smiling as usual. After my appointment, I returned to the waiting room and overheard. It appeared that Iris was on the phone with someone. Then, tonight at our usual place. Don't worry, I told my husband it's a company dinner. After a while, she ended the call. Iris was speaking in a sweet voice I had never heard her use before. Hearing her say she told her husband she was at a company drinking party, I instantly thought, is she having an affair? No way. Could it be? I could feel cold sweat running down my spine. I couldn't bring myself to speak to Iris and walked away. Sitting alone in the cafeteria, Iris found me. It seemed like she was looking for me. Maria, did you get lost? She asked with a smile. That smile sent a chill down my spine. After she dropped me off at home, I called William.
William, about Iris today. Iris? Oh, she's having dinner with her colleague. Why, what's up? Oh, nothing. Just wondering.
Suspicious. I agonized for days. Could Iris be having an affair? Should I tell William? One weekend, with Emma at the sports club, William came to visit alone.
William. There's something difficult to say.
I decided to talk about Iris. I couldn't stand it anymore. William listened silently without saying a word. After about 10 seconds of silence, he spoke. Sure, she's been busy with work lately, but I can't believe she would cheat. Of course, he would be shocked to suddenly hear his wife is cheating. Faced with my son's stubborn disbelief, I decided to show him something significant. Yes, the bank account where William had been depositing money.
Actually, it's not just that. The money you've been depositing, there's only about $9 left in the account. When I asked the bank, they said the money was withdrawn on the days Iris took me to the hospital. No way! How? Why?
William was shocked and wide-eyed.
No, I'm not saying it's definitely Iris. Sorry for saying this. No, it's okay. Thanks for telling me. I'll look into it.
2 weeks later, William brought Iris to my house. She seemed confused, unaware of the reason. William, Iris, and I sat around the table. Normally, we would be chatting, but today was different. The air was heavy as William started to speak seriously. Iris, Mom, look at this, he said, showing the transaction details made with the bank card. Iris was startled when she saw it.
You recognize this, right, Iris? I don't know what you're talking about.
She was visibly flustered, her eyes darting around.
Why is this in your wallet? The dates and times match when Mom was at her appointments, right?
William stared at her intensely. Iris, panicking, said, "How dare you look in my wallet?"
Yes, I checked your wallet. This proves the money was withdrawn from the hospital's ATM, right? I don't know anything about it. Don't just look through my stuff. That's awful.
It seemed like she was desperately trying to blame my son in an attempt to escape responsibility.
Who's the awful one here? You've been stealing the cash card from Mom's purse and using it.
William shouted, causing Iris to visibly tremble.
I was so happy when you drove me to the hospital every month. But using the money William deposited for me, that's just too much.
Iris, cornered by our questions, suddenly snorted and retorted, "That money William put in is for the family, right? There's no problem with me using it. It's not your money." William and I were astounded by her response. But Iris didn't stop berating us.
Why don't you just appreciate that I was driving Maria around? It's fine to take some money as taxi fare. Why are you two getting so angry? After all the kindness I've shown, I deserve some gratitude for my behavior so far.
Iris had a demonic look. She had always been smiling and friendly. Her attitude now was terrifying.
Then tell us what you spent that money on. I've deposited $76,000 for Mom over 7 years, and almost all of it's been withdrawn. Explain that.
William demanded, anger in his voice.
Well, I'm a woman, and I want to stay beautiful. I just used it for some beauty expenses.
Iris claimed she had inadvertently used my money for cosmetics and clothes. Then William placed a photo in front of Iris. Her face went pale as she looked at it. It was a picture of Iris and a man, shoulder to shoulder, about to enter a motel.
Why? How could this be?
Iris seemed completely taken aback and confused. Actually, after hearing my story, William had hired a detective agency to investigate his wife's infidelity.
The affair partner is apparently a supervisor at the same company as Iris. This supervisor, around the same age as Iris, is married with 2 daughters. If he's married with kids, he probably doesn't have much money to spare either.
You needed money for motel stays and dinners, didn't you?
How did you find out? It was just a fling with him.
Don't lie. You've been involved for 5 years, right? William said, showing her more photos. There's more evidence. Iris, her face red with anger, began to lash out at us.
So what? It's okay to have a little fun. I've worked hard raising our daughter. I need a break too. Being with an ordinary guy like William isn't fun. This man is more exciting, and the thrill of an affair was enjoyable. William doesn't pay attention to me, and it's creepy how he always cares about your mom. And Maria. Why do I have to entertain an old lady every month? I deserve to have fun with my affair partner. I used the money to have fun with him and for his birthday gifts.
Iris confessed angrily, as if she was unrepentant. Just then, our granddaughter Emma appeared from the back room.
Mom, I can't believe this. Emma, did you hear all that?
I know everything.
How?
Actually, after William became aware of Iris's infidelity, he was prepared for divorce and looked gloomy every day. Noticing her father's unusual demeanor, Emma learned about her mother's affair. I can't forgive her for betraying Dad and Grandma, she exclaimed in anger. So, William, Emma, and I had a discussion and planned to confront Iris at my house today.
No, Emma, it's not like that. I'm going to break up with him, okay?
Iris desperately tried to make excuses. Emma said, Mom, you had an affair with a coworker, right? And he's married too. And you used the money Dad saved for Grandma for him? That's it, said Iris. Disgusting. You're the worst, Emma said and looked at Iris with contempt and rejection. Iris was visibly shocked by this and broke down crying. Later, William and I went to Iris's company. Nice to meet you. I'm the husband of Iris. And I'm his mother. About 20 colleagues from Iris's department and a few clients who seemed to be there for insurance consultations were present. The room began to buzz.
How can I help you?
Is Oliver Smith here?
Yes, that's me.
This man was Iris's affair partner. My wife seems to have been under your care for quite a while, William said, and Oliver's face turned pale.
No, I mean, the money Iris embezzled was actually what my son had been depositing for me. I live in a wheelchair, you know? I'm so sorry.
Oliver apologized to us. According to Oliver, he felt lonely due to minimal conversation with his wife, who was tired from household chores and part-time work, and their teenage daughters. He grew close to Iris, his subordinate, and they ended up having an affair.
Don't you have daughters? I have a precious daughter too. Aren't you ashamed to do this? Well, that's...
As the affair partner was fumbling and troubled, Iris arrived, possibly returning from a sales call. Seeing my son and me, she seemed to realize the situation and became flustered.
What are you doing here?
We came to see your affair partner, William said with a big smile. The colleagues, witnessing our family drama, began to whisper among themselves. So they were really having an affair, and to think she was embezzling money from her wheelchair-bound mother-in-law, that's awful. Iris and Oliver seemed quite uncomfortable. Customers who had overheard the commotion were saying, "Wow, an affair between employees. Better not sign any contracts here, it might get messy later. Let's leave. Can't trust this insurance company at all, I'm out of here," and with that, they left the store one after the other. Later, the rumor of Iris and Oliver's affair spread rapidly among the company and its clients, leading to many cancellations. Consequently, due to the damage to the company's reputation, both were effectively fired. Iris, having lost her job, desperately apologized to William and Emma. However, it was later revealed through information from Iris's colleagues that she had affairs with multiple men at the company. William and Emma were furious and immediately kicked Iris out of the house. The next day, Iris's parents came to my house with her. "We deeply apologize for our daughter's inexcusable behavior." Iris' father apologized. However, Iris' mother, perhaps overly indulgent of her daughter, started defending her. Sure, what my daughter did was wrong, but doesn't your son also share some of the blame? Affairs aren't just one person's fault, and she's a victim because the man approached her, she said, starting to defend her daughter. Iris' father scolded her mother, enough. I said we came here to apologize today. He made Iris and her mother both apologized. We are truly sorry. I'll take responsibility for the $76,000 William had deposited for you, which Iris used. We'll get it from her. Iris, hearing her father's words, turned pale. Iris and her mother seemed unable to defy her father. As promised, a few days later, $76,000 was transferred to the designated account. After that, William and Iris got divorced. William claimed child support from Iris. Iris ended up owing alimony and child support to Emma and the $76,000 her parents had covered. Iris deserved it. Since then, Iris struggled to find a job and, after relying on Oliver, became incommunicado when he returned to his hometown. Abandoned by those around her and burdened with debt, she worked multiple part-time jobs daily. I heard from neighbors that Iris, who used to be slightly overweight, had become gaunt, almost unrecognizable. As for me, after William's divorce, at my suggestion, he and Emma moved in with me, and we decided to live together as a family of 3. I'm so happy to live with Grandma, Emma joyfully said, making me feel content. Now, I look forward to a happy life with my kind son and lovely granddaughter.